I've made a fair amount of ESO gold guides in the past. In fact, for the longest time, that's basically all I did on this channel. One of the more frequently asked questions that I've received in the comments of these gold guide videos from all kinds of players is, what do you even spend all this gold on? Newer players are coming from a place of curiosity or a lack of experience with the game when they ask this, as they'd like to know what they can expect to have to buy as they play and progress through the Elder Scrolls Online. Experienced players ask the same questions, only they're coming from a place of already having everything that they need, so they may find themselves in a position where they have all of this gold or are able to make a lot of gold rather easily, but they don't necessarily know what to do with it now that they don't really need it in order to succeed in the different aspects of the game. Whatever the case may be, I figured it'd be worth compiling a list of all the different kinds of things that you're gonna probably be spending your gold on when you play the Elder Scrolls Online. But first, let's see what my community had to say about how they like to spend their gold. I asked everyone via a YouTube poll and got some pretty interesting answers. Also, what the scallop, man? How did only 14% of you vote for Argonian ERP? I'm honestly a little disappointed. Double-cheeked up Argonian oh my god. If you're not spending your gold on Argonian tchotchkes, then you're not playing ESO correctly. Call me lifts her wallet the way I'm chasing these reptiles. Argonian ERP, because these loves aren't gonna bake themselves. Wait, hold on. What do you mean by that? Wait a minute. Was ERP the real endgame all along? Side note, did you know that one time an ESO creator reached out to me to ask if I could do some voice acting for a personal project of theirs? I said, yeah, sure, without even knowing what the project was about, and then when I got the script for it and gave it a read, I realized that it contained some mild Argonian ERP in it. I then ghosted the fella, so if you're watching this, hi, I'm so sorry. I hope you were able to find someone else for that project. It was just a bit out of my comfort zone, but I should have just told you that. Anyways, moving on. Tomfoolery aside, I did find it pretty intriguing to see what everyone was spending their gold on. Needless to say, there were some sentiments that popped up quite a few times. I'll go over the different things that you can spend your gold on, starting with the more beginner-friendly items and then gradually progressing towards more endgame goodies. Generally speaking though, if I had to provide you all with an answer to this burning question in just one sentence, I'd say that gold in ESO is used to purchase items that are necessary for participating in certain aspects of the game, as well as items that improve your quality of life and gameplay experience. And what are those items, you may ask? Let's talk about them. Ensuring that your character is kitted out with some solid gear is essential for succeeding in the PvE and PvP aspects of the Elder Scrolls Online. Gear will keep you alive and help you fulfill your role, whether it's DPSing in a dungeon run with guildies, slaying a world boss with strangers that happen to be in the area, or healing allies in Cyrodiil. A lot of gear can be obtained for free by means of obtaining it from actual content, like killing overland bosses, running dungeons and trials, using PvP currencies like alliance points and Telvar to purchase gear coffers, or crafting it yourself or asking another player to craft it for you. You need gear to get started on your adventures in ESO, and sometimes some gear isn't really accessible. For example, a brand spankin' new player is not going to be able to get their hands on the latest untradeable meta gear from a trial, a very endgame activity, but that's okay. The devs have made it so that non-trial gear can suffice for a majority of the game's content. If completing dungeons and trials or PvPing is not yet possible, you can purchase tradable gear from the guild store, or pay someone with gold or materials to make some gear for you. Even once you've become more proficient in the game, you may find yourself wanting to skip the tedious process that is grinding for tradable gear and just outright buy it instead from other players to save yourself some time. If you're a rather sweaty player, you may find yourself having to purchase new gear fairly frequently to keep up with the different trends and changes that occur with each patch, especially if you like to PvP a lot, and even more so if you PvP on different classes. If you like to use ESO's companion feature, you may also find yourself wanting to purchase some gear for them so that they can stay alive in a fight for 10 seconds instead of 5. I kid, but companion gear can get quite expensive, especially in the ideal traits. Actually wearing gear when you're doing anything other than role-playing in ESO is a necessity, and I would argue that so is using consumables like potions and food. Food can provide you with an increase to your max stats as well as a boost to your sustain. I kid you not, when I first started playing ESO, I had no idea what the flip I was doing. So I would eat crusty bread, a white quality food. No, that was not supposed to be some joke about British food, but kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? That is littered around the overland as my food buff. Don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. A lot of PvE and PvP guides out there have fairly reasonable food recommendations if you're looking for any. These meals have to be crafted, and as a newer player, that crafting option isn't always on the table, so you can purchase meals from other players. Even veteran players may not have invested in the crafting capabilities of a single character, or maybe they're too lazy to swap to their crafter, so they may outright purchase meals from other players instead. The same can be said for potions. These provide you with valuable buffs to your recovery or damage, among other things, and using them frequently can improve your ability to perform well in all sorts of content in the game. Now that you've got some gear and food and potions to help you get through different ESO content, you can use your gold to upgrade things that are important to you. Maybe this means upgrading the quality of your gear to gold to squeeze out more damage or healing or increase your survivability. Maybe it means purchasing the more expensive food options that provide slightly better stats instead of having to use the more affordable alternatives. If crafting is your cup of tea, then you may also find yourself spending a lot of gold on materials to create all sorts of goodies that are relevant to the aforementioned categories. Perhaps instead of purchasing gear and potions and meals and what have you, you'll craft your own, but you'll need to have learned the respective recipes or have researched the correct amount of traits, and you'll have to obtain the right materials in order to do so. You may also find yourself needing materials to craft items that are not related to what we've just talked about, but rather items that many players believe to be resemblant of ESO's true and real endgame. That's right, I'm talking about housing, baby. And I'm gonna lump fashion into this category as well. I think that's fair play. Honestly, neither fashion or housing are activities that are unironically only available to endgame players. I don't want to give you that impression. The term housing or fashion is endgame is derived from the fact that a lot of endgame activities reward you with housing or fashion-related goodies, such as motifs from dungeons and trials or exclusive achievement furnishings from PvE and PvP activities. The phrase also comes from the fact that once you are basically an endgame player, that's what you spend your money and time doing, decorating homes and characters. It's also a phrase that has been used to criticize the state of the PvE and PvP communities, but we're not going to go there. If housing or fashion is something that interests you, you could spend your gold on motifs and style pages to make your characters look pretty sweet, or on furnishings, furnishing materials, furnishing plans, and homes to make lovely housing creations. As someone who enjoys more realistic looking armors in my fantasy video games, I really like ESO's transmog system. I also believe that ESO's housing system is excellent. Some of the most expensive items in the game are also related to this category, such as limited edition monster style pages like the Baron Zodris mask style page, or extremely rare furnishing drops that come from public dungeons. As new content gets added to the game, many players will find themselves wanting or needing to purchase more materials to craft new items or to run more content to get new gear, among other things. Such is the MMO content loop. Players who are satisfied with their gear, supplies, housing, and fashion situations that continue to obtain substantial amounts of gold typically spend it in the following ways. Some players decide to give their funds back to the community in one way or another. This could mean paying for materials to craft gear for newer players so that those players don't have to worry about any crafting costs. It could mean donating gold or items to the trading guilds that allowed them to earn so much gold and afford whatever they needed in the first place. A lot of trading guild masters, present company included, use a lot of their own personal earnings to help secure a trader for their communities every week, although this should absolutely not be expected of them. The Crown Store is ESO's premium currency shop. At the time of recording, it's possible to purchase Crown Store items that would otherwise cost crowns, aka real-life money, by way of a crown exchange. By trading a crown seller an agreed-upon sum of gold, the crown seller will then gift the buyer an item from the Crown Store. As it came to be known not too long ago when Crown Store gifting was put on pause, a lot of players spend their gold to avoid having to pay real money for Crown Store items. This is a TOS-friendly practice in the context of using a crown exchange, mind you. Through crown exchange services like TCE, players can obtain old chapters, DLCs, character and outfit slots, alliance change tokens, mounts, cosmetics, and more from the Crown Store by having those things gifted to them by other players. A lot of players believe that some of the neatest cosmetics in the game come from the Crown Store, so it's no surprise to see that so many people are eager to earn a lot of gold to ultimately be able to afford and show off these items. This says a lot about our society, but we already talked about it in this video, so I'm just gonna leave that there. Alright, that about covers everything. Whether you're newer to ESO or a veteran player, hopefully, you have a better idea of the kinds of things that you can purchase with your gold. If you're interested in finding out how to make gold, then you've come to the right place. I have a boatload of gold making content on this channel for all different kinds of players. Check it out if you want, or don't. I'm not your mom. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you to the peeps that subscribe to my YouTube membership program for sponsoring this content, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, everyone. Cheers.